Hey, you want to see a dead body?
You guys want to go see a dead body?
It's this one. So, hi, I'm Eric. I live in Orlando, Florida, right near Disney World. Disney's right over there. And in a very un-Disney like thing, I got told yesterday that I am likely to die soon. I'll tell you all about it, but I thought I kind of looked around to see what information I could find about people in my situation, and there isn't much. And so, what you'll learn if you stick with me is that I don't have a lot of, I'm not very shy about things in terms of, things a lot of people feel shame about or anything like that. So I thought, well, maybe I should make, while there's time, some videos for people to understand what happens when things like what's happening to me are happening. So that's what this is. Hope you stick with me. And here's what's going on. So the best way to describe what's happening to me is probably by telling you what happened to that guy. Well, that guy, this guy, that guy. Walter Payton was always my favorite football player growing up. And in the late 90s, he was diagnosed with a disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis, which I'll just call PSC because that's what people call it, which is a scarring of the tissues in your liver. It's cirrhosis, but it's not necessarily from drinking. I've never really drank in my life. There was, I think, some speculation, maybe painkillers with Walter Payton, but it really isn't caused by that stuff. It's just an autoimmune disease that causes your bile ducts to shrink up and scar. And so, ironically, around the same time he was diagnosed in the late 90s, I was also diagnosed with PSC. But after a bunch of treatment, they took my gallbladder out and everything cleared up. And they kind of shrugged and said, well, I guess you don't have it because if you had it, you'd be on your way to dying. So right around that same time that was happening, again, late 90s. And what happened to me recently was I started throwing up blood and I started pooping blood. Told you I was going to be transparent. And candidly, I almost died from blood loss. And what was happening was I have some scarring in my liver that's blocking off a vein. And so your body tries to reroute blood flow. And actually, I was bleeding from up here in my esophagus into my stomach and bleeding quite a bit. And it's a thing called varices. So if you ever find yourself throwing up blood and all that, you may have a similar thing happening with it trying to reroute blood. And basically, it just forms little sacs of blood, and then some of them rupture, and you bleed internally. Bleeding internally is bad. So that's how I found out that the PSC was back. In Walter Payton's case, in the late 90s, the only cure for PSC was a liver transplant. It's currently also the only cure for PSC is a liver transplant. Back then, if you had cancer, then you were ruled out of a liver transplant at all. And unfortunately, Walter Payton developed bile duct cancer. I guess because he's my hero, I have also developed bile duct cancer. Now, the results are, the prognosis isn't much better, but if you can, there are certain organizations that if you can keep a tumor under a certain size, 0.3 centimeters, one of those, and if you can keep it from spreading, they will still do a liver transplant. In fact, they kind of make you a priority patient. So that's where I was they found out that I had cholangiocarcinoma, which is what the cancer is of the bile duct. And so they referred me to the Mayo Clinic. I'll have a whole video about insurance and what you need to do and all these things. The short version of the story is I submitted my insurance to the Mayo Clinic for an insurance review to see if they would evaluate me and if my insurance was accepted there. They turned out knew on the first day that my insurance company did not take that insurance, but I was told for several weeks, well, we're waiting for the Aetna to call us. That's my insurance company. We're waiting for them to call us and let us know if they will, accept this, procedure and all of the testing that goes with finding out if you can have a liver transplant. So I wasted 30 days with an aggressive cancer. So then it was another 30 days basically to talk to my doctors here in Orlando to figure out who will take my insurance since they won't. And it turns out there's another organization here in town that does take my insurance, that does liver transplants. And so my doctor coordinated with their doctor. We waited a few more weeks, and ultimately about 60 days with an aggressive cancer happening, I finally got to see the liver transplant specialist yesterday, which is why I'm calling this day one. And I'm not going to dress it up. It didn't go well. We had an appointment with the liver transplant surgeon at the organization where we finally found an organization, actually here in town, that would take my insurance. But they are much more conservative than the Mayo Clinic, which is where I had hoped to go, in terms of if you have cancer and if you have, certain tumor size, and if you have any suspicion whatsoever of the cancer spreading at all, they're out. So we had an appointment with a doctor, and it really felt like one of those Roman emperor up or down moments. He comes in, he was very dour right away, not very friendly, not very, didn't make a lot of eye contact. So I immediately thought, this is not great. So basically where we are is I'm right where Walter Payton was when he had his press conference. I think I'm in a little bit better position than he was. I'm not as jaundiced as he looked. I think I look... Well, he looks shocking because you're used to seeing him as a great athlete. I was never a great athlete. So maybe I'm misreading it. But he had his press conference in February to announce that he had the exact same thing that I have. He did not announce, I think, at the time that he had the cancer that I know I have. But ultimately, the fact that he had bile duct cancer, which I do, back in 1999 was completely exclusionary. If you had cancer, that was it. You couldn't get a liver transplant, and that was that. So he passed away. He had that press conference in February. He passed away in November. So that's the timeline that I'm working on. I've got 25 years worth of medical advance, hopefully chemotherapy advance. Hopefully I'm in a little bit better, not physical shape than he was, but a little bit better in terms of the disease. So right now, in a practical sense, I kind of try to put my mind in a practical sense. I'm thinking I got 9 months to live to get everything together. But that's what this channel is going to be, and that's what this video series is going to be, is I'm going to go deep with you because I think we as a society are way too afraid of death and way too afraid to talk about illness and death and those things. And so what we have to experience with someone we actually love and care about, it can be shocking. And so maybe I can take some of the edge off, and so you'll either see me get through this or you'll see me die. Sounds bleak. But that's the plan. I hope to live up to it. You guys can hold me accountable. I want to be as completely transparent as I possibly can be, because I don't necessarily have a lot of life left, and one of the guiding principles of my life has been to try to help other people understand things and learn things. And I come from a family in one way or another of teachers, and so when this all happened, I thought to myself, well, there's no information for me. I don't have any way to learn how to die. or how to get my family ready to die, or how to explain to people what's happening. So I've sort of decided to try to do that. So if you have questions, if you have comments, anything, obviously I appreciate thoughts and prayers. I appreciate all of that stuff. But if there's something you want to know, no matter how, down and dirty, nitty gritty, I'll tell you. I'm not afraid of it. I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed that I'm dying. Everyone is. I've just got a little more sense of my timeline, and I kind of know what's going to get me in the end. So that's what this channel is going to be. I hope you, come along for the ride, or not. I mean, this could end up being a little ghoulish. But just to give you an example, here's me at my, I think, healthiest and happiest. And that if you kind of look at the crypt keeper that I've already become with just this, But I'll be back in a couple days with another video talking about putting in the chemo port, talking about what all that means, and then we'll take you to my first dose of chemo. We'll take you on through it. So I guess I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe and all those things to help people find the videos. And I appreciate you, and thanks.